Josh, thank you so much for taking the time today to have a little convo with me about service business mastery.
It's my
Can you tell us the
pleasure.
story? Yeah, thank you very much, man. Can you tell us the story? Like, why did you start? How did you start it? What's the whole thing behind that?
Oh yeah, certainly. So okay, um, I started it originally in 2016, and it was because at that time I was driving about 3 hours a day, and I had listened to all the books that I could get on our topic on like the HVAC and home service industry, plumbing and electrical, but I couldn't find any business books necessarily highly focused on the trades, the skilled trades. And so I started really trying to dive into podcasting. And there wasn't a podcast that talked specifically about what I was talking about or what I was thinking about or searching. And so I had a friend of mine who was, uh, he had his own podcast on the trades as far as the technical knowledge for technicians and stuff like that. Um, but I was looking more for the business side of things. So he actually helped me get started. He taught me a lot of what I knew about podcasting and helped me start the Service Business Mastery podcast at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Love this. When I sometimes talk about you guys, I really say like this is what absolute mastery of B2B podcasting looks like when you take it to the extreme level. Also because you guys have been doing it for basically a decade now, like quite
Yeah,
literally.
yeah,
Um, so it's funny because we can actually see the progress of like how you felt about it, the progress of the studio behind it, just by looking back at the YouTube videos back then. Did you? I know we're not talking about specifically the results just yet, but like, did you expect the podcast to become what it is now, and for
yeah.
you guys to be where you're at?
Not at all. Honestly, it started off as a hobby, and
Yeah.
a lot of people, they're like, "How do you get that many followers? How do you get that many subscribers every month?" And I was like, "Well, you start in 2016." I honestly, I had no idea though. Like it it was partially so that I could get connected with people that I would never be able to talk with otherwise. And then also I have a speech impediment, and it was a way for me to work through that as well.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
What's the so it's so funny when I talk to B2B coaches, consultants, B2B firm owners, they're like, yeah, we need a brand, like we understand that, a day and age, we need a brand. I'm like, cool. This is gonna take at least 3 years. Let's get
Yeah.
started. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not in the end. So
Yeah,
we found a way.
a
Go ahead,
lot of
go ahead.
people assume that they're gonna they start it and then immediately everybody's gonna want to hear it. And while yes, a lot of people may love your content, it's not going to be easily found to start with. Like if you're not implementing, you know, the processes, you're not putting things out everywhere. Uh, it's not good. And a lot of the podcast um, uh, companies, the like just saying Libsyn or Bean, was it Podbean? There, a lot of them they'll advertise and just talk about uh, the fact that you can just throw content out there and like you can record it. There's a couple of them that are literally you can record it and release it at the same time without having to edit it. While that's true, yeah, the production value means a ton. Like having that on the back end is um, it's like going from having 20 to 30 listens per episode to having 10,000 listens per episode. It's the difference because people really value they don't like the overproduced. Um, they still want some raw and authentic, genuine conversation. But if you have a whole bunch of cars honking in the background, you got some rustling because you have some cheap microphone that you haven't edited, all of that stuff, that's gonna deter people from continuing to listen to what could be great content.
Yeah, I love this. I think that authenticity piece that you just mentioned is is key. Like information is it's a commodity, not even now. Like it's free,
Sure.
it's everywhere. You have access to
Mhm.
it. Hearing people talk authentically about the topics that you care about, together with other people that are like you or that you care about, is how you get the message across. How would you say it has helped your guys' businesses? So you're one of the hosts, the founder of the podcast. Now you do this together with Josh. So
Mhm.
you both have your own businesses, like to begin with, right? Service
Yeah.
and for you, Relentless Digital for Josh. Can you talk a bit about how the podcast has potentially or not helped those respective businesses?
Sure. Absolutely. So, for Josh and Relentless, it's a digital marketing agency. We talk digital marketing on the podcast. We don't necessarily talk about Relentless, but becoming the authority has helped tremendously with Josh because people see him as an authority figure because we're constantly talking about, the business side of things. And for me, like, so it's grown, helped grow Relentless massively. And they've done, I mean, obviously they it takes good leadership as well and other things to grow. But it's really helped to get their name out. And at little to no cost compared to traditional marketing. As far as my business, so my business being local, I kind of always wanted it to be separate. Or I didn't kind of, I definitely wanted the two to be separate because, um, on one hand, I'm talking how to price things. And so I don't necessarily want my customers to be like, oh, yeah, so I know exactly how you price things out because I listened to your podcast. But at the same time, having the authority and it's a give and take. Like I can get some domain authority. I can
Yeah,
do these different things to help uh, people see in the air. Like you get a little bit of just localized celebrity, yes, I guess. And especially when you go to networking events. So that helps out, especially if you're doing like B2B, HVAC and plumbing.
yeah,
So they can see you, they see your if they Google me, like if they just Google Tersh, typically I'm like the first two or three pages that pop up. And so there's
yeah.
some authority there as well.
So I love this. Just applying the podcasting code here. We just go down the rabbit hole that you just give me. How would you think about podcasts for a local business? Because I understand how
I
initially
love it.
that wasn't the idea,
Yeah.
but if you were to launch one now for a local business, how would it even make sense? And how would you
Yeah.
do it if so?
Oh, I talk to people about this all the time. I think it's
Nice.
something that's amazing. I I should probably do it myself, but I have so many other irons and fires and stuff, so I haven't started or even considered doing it myself personally. But the fact that you can create a content or you can create a podcast and then bring in all of your uh, local business owners and then from there, like you're interviewing them, and then it's evergreen content for them. And then they hear, that they're more likely to share it because it's their voice talking. You're asking questions about their company and you're, you know, talking their company up. So it basically becomes advertisement for them, but then you create a blog post for them to put on their website with a backlink to your website, and then all of a sudden you have 30, 40, 50 local business owners who all have backlinks to your website. You become the domain authority in the service businesses, and also you're giving them, free advertising that's evergreen content that they can share forever, so it's a win-win for everybody.
I love this. So backlink, just for the people listening to us who might not know what that is, it's a little basically a vote of confidence from someone's website to say, hey, I've worked with or I talked to Tosh, he knows his stuff, and therefore I'm sending something towards his website, and you can access it from that person's website. So that's basically Google and LLM see that as a vote of confidence and makes you more likely to rank high in the search results. I think the thing on top of that is literally you become the go-to person for whatever your job is within that local area because you got to talk to every other business owners in that space. So now if you think just about real estate, for instance, now you're the real estate guy because you've built those relationships with those people locally.
Mhm.
it's so funny because there is this, and then there is looking at your podcast charts, guys, and seeing that you're, consistently ranking the number 5, number 4 even podcast in management in the US.
Yeah.
With, and it's not to undermine it, but with a home service business podcast, with a skill trades podcast.
It's a very what you would consider a niche podcast. And for
Right.
years I was I was okay with like we can break into top 200. Like I was okay with that because in my mind and what everybody I had talked to said, be thankful for 10,000 downloads because you're an extremely niche podcast. And
100%.
so like it's okay. And when you talk to sponsors or partners, they have to understand, you're not Mike Rowe, you're not Joe
Mhm.
Rogan, you're not going to get 1 million downloads the very first day it's released. And so, as long as you know that when you're talking to people, then it's because sometimes I would see, like, I'd talk to people at podcast events, and they're like, "So, how many downloads do you get?" Obviously, that's just the measuring contest that
Of
everybody
course.
has, but
Vanity
uh,
metrics. Let's go.
yeah, yeah, vanity metrics, 100%. So I would be like, "Oh yeah, we're getting 10,000 downloads," and for me, I was like, when we got to 20,000 downloads a month, I was like, "Oh yes, like we're killing it." And then you'd see some people, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you got a lot of downloads." I was like, "Well, for our space, that is a lot of downloads." And then once we broke past like the 220,000 downloads, then I was like,
Mhm.
"This is unreal. Like this is just wild, beyond belief." Again, they're vanity numbers because at the end of the day, what does that bring you? It's not
Yeah.
like you're getting paid per download. Like that would be amazing if that was the case. But uh, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, do we have a successful podcast? At this
Yeah.
point, yes, I would say it's a pretty successful podcast.
So there are so many things I want to double down on here. The first one is that vanity metric versus what's actually going to drive business for you guys. And we're going to talk about the different directions that you guys took from it. And on the other side, there is, how do you explain that? Like, how do you explain that you go from a very niche podcast that's, I mean, in our experience, 20,000 downloads on a very niche, basically B2B podcast? That's huge, and that's usually enough to drive a lot of business.
Yeah,
How do you make it become, top 5 in management, top 50 in business, top 100 sometimes, even top 70 in all podcasts in the US?
that's
How
wild,
do you
isn't
explain that? Man, just thinking about it is crazy. How
it?
do you explain that from your perspective, Tersh?
For me, it's so really it I think that it really started to morph and change when we quit talking super heavy just about HVAC or air conditioning. Like when we got away from that and came to the mindset of, hey, look, if you're running a home service business, you're running a home service business. You might be skilled in HVAC, you might be skilled in plumbing or landscape or, pool cleaning, pool building, roofing. But at the end of the day, we're still running a business. We're not talking technical in the trades. We're talking business side of things. And so once we like honestly going out to events, speaking, presenting at events, that's made a massive impact. That's been very helpful. And being unapologetically promotional about yourself. Like everywhere I was going, I was wearing my brand. Like if I'm out in public, I'm wearing my brand. And we go to a trade show and I present on stage and we're like, hey, here's a QR code. Click that or scan the QR code and follow us. And that's on every presentation. And so it's like, hey, you can see like a little bump, like it used to be
Yeah.
you'd see a big bump because we had smaller volume, but now it's a lot smaller bump up, but you can see it. Like you can watch the graphs go up when you leave an event, especially if an event that's got a couple thousand people there. And so that's just everybody has this imposter syndrome. Like it's just a fact. It happens. The imposter syndrome's a real thing, but people want to hear what you have to say, and don't be afraid to tell them. Like, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, look, I have a podcast. Check it out. You might like it, and if you do, give me a follow."
It's that compounding effects as well. I think of like doing the unscalable, right? Showing the QR code one person at a time during 10 years.
Yep.
I think so. Something that literally we've learned from you guys. Like, I'm not ashamed of saying it. And now we're helping other people do the same. But it's basically leveraging the podcast to get a better access at conferences, if not speaking engagements, and vice versa, using the conferences to be like, hey, let's have a podcast booth in here so that we can do live interviews with participants. That's good communication for you. That's good marketing for us. Can
They love
you,
it. The
why is that? Like,
Yeah,
why does that
okay.
work?
So they actually absolutely love the idea of you promoting their event. Like the very first couple of times that we mentioned it or tried to pitch it, they were like, "Oh yeah, we can set up a booth for you for $10,000 and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No,
No.
you don't understand. Like you're going to get ROI from
let,
this."
let me tell you.
Yeah. Like you're like it's cost us, you know, a little bit to produce each episode, and like let's
Yeah.
do 2 episodes before the event while we're there. Like let's do 4 recordings total. You pick 2 guests and then I'm gonna hunt down 2 guests. Or maybe the keynote, like you can ask the keynote if they'll be our guest on the podcast. And so then you get one-on-one access with the keynote of the entire event, you know. And most of the times it's like a couple minutes. Like, are you familiar with the former NASCAR driver Danica Patrick? Um,
Doesn't ring a bell.
so
Tell me.
she was a female NASCAR driver,
Cool.
raced Indy cars as well, Formula One, I believe. But she was a keynote at an event last October, and I was like, they're never gonna say yes, but let me ask anyways. I said, "What's the chances we could interview Danica Patrick?" And they're like, "There's no way, but we'll ask her." And they asked and they're like, "Yeah, that'd be fun." And so we went in, interviewed her. They were very particular about her interview. Like we had to give them our questions beforehand. But I was very clear with, "Hey, just so you know, you've probably never listened to our podcast because you would know this, but I deviate from questions a lot. So just be aware of that."
I
And
would
it
know.
was fun. It was fun. But the, it was funny because they told us not to ask anything about AI, but about
Okay.
3/4 of the way through the interview, they also had a very strict hard stop. And they kept like they had people in the back like stop her from talking. But
Okay.
about 3/4 of the way through, we started talking AI, and she's like, "Oh, this is my favorite thing to talk about." I was like, "Really?" Because I was told I couldn't ask you any questions about it. And she's like, "Yeah, because I'm gonna keep talking about it, and they don't want me to keep talking, like, they want to stop." And so we had a great conversation, and, it's one of our more popular episodes, and it was a rather short episode. One of the things that I loved about, you know, with working with you was the fact that, the, you the KPIs and just tracking the KPIs and saying, "Hey, look, we're getting better engagement on these videos or these podcast episodes that are between this length and this length." And there were times where it was like, I know I need to keep this thing to 20 or 30 minutes or whatever it is, but this is a really good conversation. Like, let's keep going. And so like ultimately some of those you might want to split into 2 times or whatever your the range is there that is the sweet spot. Because, you know, there's some episodes, there's, you know, some podcasts out there that are 6 and 8 hours long. And like they are,
Literally.
yeah, literally, and they're great, like amazing. There's one of them that like, I haven't listened to this one in years, probably. I don't even know that it's a podcast still, but it was like something history, like extreme history or something like that. But it was like
Mhm.
8 hours long, and it would be like um the history of the Celtic people. Like it's literally like all these really
Out
in-depth,
of
but it
the
was
blue.
yeah, it was a really great storyteller. And so like he would release one episode every 6 months, but the moment it was released, like 1 million downloads. And like people would binge listen to it, but it might be eight,
Serious.
could be 12 hours long, something sometimes. But it was really great episodes. And so just kind of like learn your audience, but
Yeah.
that's easier said than done sometimes.
So you don't track it. If you don't track it, you can't manage it. And I think at the end of the day, when you're back to that conversation around vanity metrics versus business impact, it's great to build authority. It's great to get downloads. It's great to get views. But if you don't know what works when, why, with whom, you cannot say like, oh, we're gonna do more of this or less of that, or let's put more efforts in there in this because we see that we get results.
Hmm.
Another thing I want to double down on, Tersh, is I think people don't realize, and hopefully that will help. I don't think people realize how great of a tool podcast is to get access to people that you wouldn't even imagine getting access to, like this. So this NASCAR driver, the very first conference we attended to, following your guys' playbook, I was just like, you know what, just screw it. I'm gonna pardon my French. I'm just gonna go and ask to meet the managing director of so your finance, the economic group, for a treasury conference. And I was like, yeah, I have this, this amateur podcast, and I'd love to interview Emma. Lovely lady. She was like, let's do this. This is great. And now we're talking to the freaking organizer of the of the conference. And we're like, we were nobodies at the time.
Hmm.
And I was like, just because you have a podcast and you proposed it in a way of like, hey, let's sit down, let's have a conversation, crazy the type of doors this opens to you.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about how you guys, and that's just to set expectations as well. This is not something that's going to happen in the first month,
Right.
years,
Yeah.
potentially a couple of years as well, if you start a B2B podcast now. But talk to me about how you guys took it to the like complete next level and transformed the podcast service business mastery into a business on its own with partners, with sponsors. Like, what does that look like?
So for years, we treated it like a hobby. And
Yeah,
because it was like treated like a hobby, we um, didn't have partners, or we'd have like a partner that paid. And I interchange the word sponsor and partners a lot because I don't want people thinking we're getting bought out or we're getting bought by a sponsor.
yeah,
We're more like a partner with them while we don't have any legal connection with each other. They just pay us and then we promote them. But part of that is uh, like we were getting like let's call it $500 a month from
yeah.
a partner, and they would have like a month to month agreement, and so it wasn't a real partnership because they could quit anytime if they didn't feel like they were getting ROI. Uh, Part of the issue is that it's a branding play. And if the company that's paying you doesn't understand branding and the fact that it's like a billboard, like you can't attribute direct ROI to it,
Mhm.
it's you have to have that conversation to start with. Like, hey, we're more like a billboard than we are like Google, like
Pay per
LSA.
click.
Yeah, pay per
Yeah,
click.
yeah,
So you're not necessarily going to get trackable. Like they may hear your product on our podcast over and over and over again, but they still go to Google, and
yeah.
Google gets the credit for what we've been doing over the years. Um, so it started like that. Then once we got
Mhm,
serious and we're like, hey, look, we're going to just commit to doing a podcast every single week.
mhm,
It's going to be nicely produced. We're going to spend time. We're not going to record it that morning and then throw it out there.
mhm.
It's going to be something where we're going to have some time to edit it and produce it and stuff like that. That's whenever we started getting our first sponsor and like for real sponsor. And
Yeah,
uh, that I had no idea. They're like, how much do you charge? And I was like, I had no clue what to charge you. But he was like, you should be getting paid for this so that you can put more money into it so that you can grow it more. And I was like,
yeah.
that's a good point, Billy. That's our first sponsor, like for a real sponsor. And he's like, how much do you feel like you're worth? And I was like, I mean, internally, I'm thinking, realistically, I think it's $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna throw 5,000 out there and see what he says. And I said 5,000. He's like, all right, bet. I said, did I say 5,000? I meant like 10,000. He's like, no. He was like, no, we'll pay 5,000 though. And so for years, like for several years, that was our main sponsor was 5,000.
Yeah.
We got to the point to where our demand was so high that we could increase that price actually three times that much for our sponsors now, and still keeping 5 to 6 sponsors going
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And so it's something that is really unheard of. Like I just didn't expect it to happen. It's to the point now to where like we have full staff that are helping with us, like especially the um, scheduling aspect of things. Because once you get into the top 5 and 6, 10 in your specific area,
Yeah.
people are going to beat down the doors trying to get on your podcast because they see it as a means to for promoting, and you're going to get PR companies that are going to reach out to you nonstop. So we have to have several people who are navigating their way through all of that stuff.
Yeah. I remember I remember a conversation we had. And so you share what you feel comfortable sharing, Tersh, of course.
Yeah,
But I remember that conversation we had on Slack together with Josh as well. I was like, guys, I mean, we are signing too many sponsors. This starts to look like a NASCAR car to get back to that reference.
yeah,
And we're like, well, okay, but then how do you balance people wanting to, put down 5, 10, 15K a month on the table?
yeah.
And again, this is the like extreme final boss level of podcasting. But how did you guys think through? Okay, we need to make a decision, potentially charge more per sponsor. How
Yeah.
did you navigate this while still making sure that you strengthen your authority, your authenticity, the market? How do you manage all that?
So one of the things was we had multiple people coming to us at the same time saying, "Hey, we see your success. We want to be one of the sponsors on your show." And uh, at that point in time, we had several, I think 4 or 5 that were on there at 5,000 a month. And the people who originally signed up, we never wanted to fire them at all. And we never wanted to jack the price up on them because they believed in us
Respect.
when nobody else did. You know what I mean? So we were like, hey, we're not going to mess with y'all at all. You're still going to be like our gold level sponsor, but you're going to stay at $5,000 a month. Now, if you leave and then come back, then you have to, pay
Makes sense.
what everybody else is paying. Um, so there was that. It kind of put some golden handcuffs on the original sponsors, but
Yeah.
they're also super great to work with, and they've never questioned us, and they're just great people. And that was kind of our measuring aspect of who do we accept in the future, because there were a couple of people who got a lot of PE money, and
Yeah.
we didn't trust them as individuals, as businesses. So we were like, hey, look, it's a gut feeling. Like,
Mhm.
we really like these people. We trust these people. We don't believe they're going to screw people over, because at the end of the day, like, we built a brand that people know, like, and trust. And so
Yeah.
if we start recommending some sleaze bag because they're paying us a lot of money, they're going to quit trusting us. And so that's what we have to live off of, is our name. And so
Amen.
we've turned several potential sponsors away. Um, like, there's been a couple of situations where I'm like, "Whew, glad we did that," because they were terrible
could have
people. Yeah.
could have ended real bad.
Oh, yeah, it did. It ended real bad for that company, and
Yeah.
they got smeared everywhere, and we would have been smeared with them. So, there's a couple of times that happened, but then we've been pretty lucky trusting our gut as far as who to approve and who not to approve. Because there's some people who we even approved and they're not sponsors anymore, but we're still really good friends with them. We
Yeah.
understood why, like, they wanted to change their marketing strategy altogether. And we're
Mhm.
like, hey, we get it. We change things all the time too. So, but we're still really good friends with them. And so, it's one of those things where, like, um, develop relationships, and
Mhm.
they'll pay what you're worth, and
Yeah.
they'll believe in you. And especially if you believe in yourself enough, they'll believe in you, and ask for things that you don't think you deserve. It's a weird concept for me. Like, I don't
Try it out.
exactly. The worst they can say is no, or,
Exactly.
hey, look, we're looking at probably half that budget. And you can either say, yeah, we'll give you gold level at half the price, or you can say, hey, we got silver and bronze also. And there's been a couple companies that I really like the people. I love the people. I
Mhm.
wanted to work with them, but their budget was, $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, look, let's do like a bronze package with a shared, um, like a profit share type thing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily profit share, but like referral marketing, affiliate
Yeah.
marketing type setup. And there's been several times we've gotten burned by affiliate marketing in the past, so we're really cautious to throw that one out there, unless
Mhm.
it's like somebody we really want to work with, and we've done that in the past too, and it's been successful. There's more often than not when it comes to affiliate marketing, we've gotten to the point where uh, we've been blessed to where we don't need to spend the time, effort, and energy to track our referrals. So, like,
Yeah,
we'll have a trackable link, but if they click that link and then, like, they wait 3 weeks and they Google the company, and then the next thing you know, they're signed up to use that company, we didn't get attribution for that. Like, they didn't keep track of that, and that's okay, at this point. Now, at one point when we were doing it, I was spending a lot of time like, "Hey, send me everybody that signs up so I can make
yeah,
sure that I don't have them also, like, in my wheelhouse as far."
yeah,
And that just became so much work, and it was like, "Okay, so I guess I don't trust you if that's the case, and so if I don't trust you, then we don't need to be partners." And, that ultimately led to, like, anytime anybody ever presents to me like, "Hey, let's do affiliate marketing," like, "Yes, but this is branding. This is
yeah,
not direct ROI." So, like, it may take 6 months to a year of branding before someone pulls the trigger to do it. But whenever they do, they're like, "Hey, look, I listen to the Service Business Master podcast. They talk
I'm
about your
sold.
product all the time.
Yeah,
So I wanna sign up for it." And they might not even be sponsors anymore at that point when they actually
yeah,
do sign up for it. And, um, if we've been if they were paying our regular rates, then, we're cool with that. Like, you paid for the time, and that's the perk of it. It's evergreen content. We told you that in the beginning. Um, so, we're okay with
yeah.
people coming on board after the fact. That's part of it.
That's the whole deal. So much gold to dig into, Tersh. I know we are a bit limited on time. There are two things that I want to touch upon. You let me know if we'll
Yeah,
have time for
absolutely.
everything.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. First thing is Trade Automation Pro. So there is a stage where you have so much demand that you have to create something else to direct people towards because you see a demand as well.
Yeah.
What's Trade Automation Pro like? What are you guys doing there?
Okay, so we started, like I said, we got away from speaking just about HVAC, and we got into talking about automations because Josh and I both really love automating things, and uh, we eventually developed a whole process called Optimize, Automate, Delegate. And it's not something original to us. There's other people who do a similar concept, like Elon
Yeah.
Musk does something that's like 5 steps instead of 3, but, um,
Okay.
essentially, it's just like make sure your things are optimized properly before you automate them, and then if you can't automate it, then let's delegate it. And, we started talking about that so much so that people were like, "Hey, can you help us do that?" And that's where Trade Automation Pros came from. So we started, teaching people how to build out automations, and then AI came about, and we were like, "Hey, let's deep dive into AI as well." And so, we talk a ton about AI and automation on the podcast now, which also probably helps with our rankings because it's a buzzword, um, then so Trade Automation Pros was a business that ultimately was developed because of the podcast. Like, it created a seven-figure business from the podcast just talking about automations and AI. And there's times where, like, man, we have too many irons in the fire. Like, let's stop creating more businesses. But they're really
Focus.
yeah. Well, there's solutions to problems, and so we've implemented the things that we talk about. We optimized our processes, then automated and delegated, and what that did was give us the ability to operate multiple businesses at the same time.
Yeah. So that's I mean, again, that's what I love about what you guys have built. There is kind of the first stage, right? Which is just, hey, you can consider this a hobby, but you're basically talking to people in your industry. You get this access, potentially do business with those people that you get access to. And that's kind of the first level of it. Then you build authority and you get business from it. And when you get in touch with people, they check you out and they're like, oh, wait a second, this guy has a leading podcast in the space. Okay, he must be legit.
Yeah,
Then you have another level to this is you've built so much authority that brands in your space want to associate their image with yours because you've built that authority. And then there is because of the audience that you've built. And here now we are talking literally in hundreds of thousands of people each and every month. But like, cool, you will get questions from this audience asking you like, hey, can you help with insert problem that they're struggling with here? And now you're like, well, we have demand, we have authority, we have the supply. Like, let's build something that will help people and potentially make us money. And
It's wild because it's like usually people uh have a great idea. They're like, hey, I have a pain point that I want to solve, so I'm gonna create a business to solve it. But then once I've figured out how to start the business and create the product or the solution, now I have to market to people. And ours was the exact opposite. Like, hey, we have a massive amount of demand.
yeah,
So let's create a business to help solve that. And there's sometimes where it's like, hey, look, we can't do this, but hey, we've met other people who do something kind of similar to what we're doing, or they might be super niche in that area, and we can send people to them, whether they give a referral or we just do it because they're good people and we're friends. It's happened, and so it's you build a referral network or build another business,
mhm,
depending on how well you've optimized the podcast and whatever you're doing day to day
yeah,
operations.
amen to that. The thing I often say is, for me, the best reason for someone to stop working with us, Tersh, is the podcast became so big and so successful that they just had to build the team in house because it just made sense, which is kind of a bit the story here. We've worked together for about 2 years, a bit more.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely loved it.
Yep.
Share whatever you feel comfortable sharing,
Uh huh.
but what has been your journey with GHA? How did it start? How did it go? And
Oh
any things that you
man.
want to share?
So we knew that okay, so we finally got we said, "Hey, if we can get 3 sponsors, like if we can get
Yeah.
3 gold level sponsors, then we're gonna hire someone else to do this for us,"
Yeah.
because it was taking a lot of my personal time. I still had another HVAC company to run, um, and so it was pulling me away from there. I was getting a little burnout as well, doing all of the editing and making sure that it was posted places. And so you could tell, like our the content was great. The editing had teetered off because it was more of like, hey, if you screw up on the podcast, don't sweat it, but you're not coming back because I'm not editing it out. Like we're full sending this thing with your screw up in it. And, like if there's some static noise, I'll get rid of that. But like if you say too many times, we're sending it. Like it's full send with ums. And so it
Love it.
and and so we got the three sponsors, and Josh and I were like, all right, bet we're hiring somebody, and we interviewed a lot of people, and you weren't the cheapest by far. The But it was like, hey, quality's there, like it's the best, and Josh and I were both like, hey, look, you get what you pay for. I love it, and let's use them, and we're like, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. And we did, and it was great because instead of me having to come up with the reporting and hey, let me find the KPIs, let me search all these things out. And Lord knows I didn't even look at the YouTube stats. Like we put it up on YouTube, but I didn't look at the stats. Like we were growing the YouTube channel a little bit, but it was not by intention. It was just happenstance that it started growing. And so once you came on, once we started working together, it was really great because all those things I didn't have to do anymore. I didn't have to edit it. Like it was just really a godsend because we could afford it for one, and for two, I could focus on other things. So we wouldn't have been able to build out Trade Automation Pros had that not taken the had not happened. Ultimately, it freed up enough time for me to start two other businesses in actuality. So we started a full-on AI phone call analysis company as well called PhoneTap. And um,
Interesting.
so it that stuff just we wouldn't have had the time. I wouldn't have personally had the time. And the podcast probably would have teetered off and died because of
Okay.
Josh and I both not having the time and energy to handle it all.
And one of the values that I respect a lot with you guys is back to one of the things you mentioned, Tersh. Like, you're sticking with the people who believed in you when nobody else would. And that's why you kept those early sponsors at the golden level at a reduced price. So I'm gonna say something, which is you were one of our first clients. You believed in us as well, right? It was all based on outreach. So thank you so much for the trust, the relationship. Really
Yeah.
great speaking with you, and yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. I mean, y'all took us to another level. We couldn't thank you enough.